choice between the magnetic automatic. Pretty sure I made the right. Sewage plant field trips are today. Hairy armpits.
We've lost.
The proof is here, inside my gut. Ever since you attended this elementary school, you've been
Yeah, when it's cut all together like that, you really get a sense of the
Crazy.
For 4 long years, you two elementary school is supposed to be. Very, very soon.
more like Jerome Horwitz Penitentiary.
Oh, Tommy, same old, same old.
Memorize these dates. 18.
First graders. Always hits them the hardest.
Hold on a second. Our pranks and practical jokes are the last line of...
I heard you both got into a bit of the old trouble there. Maybe I didn't.
For the man. That's the whole point of the man. He stands...
This Saturday is the mandatory
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Denigport channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Today we're going to be talking about the movie Captain Underpants, the first epic movie from 2017. Silent in the bustling, albeit slightly drab, halls of Jerome Horwitz Elementary School lived 2 inseparable best friends, George Beard and Harold Hutchins. Their days were a vibrant tapestry of invention and mischief, a stark contrast to the gray conformity of their strict principal, Mr. Krupp. George, the energetic and imaginative one, with a mind that could conjure fantastical creatures and elaborate pranks, was often the instigator. Harold, his loyal and artistic counterpart, possessed a remarkable talent for bringing George's wildest ideas to life through his drawings, a skill honed by countless hours spent doodling in his sketchbooks, often inspired by the classic comic artists he admired, dreaming of one day creating his own legacy in sequential art. Their shared passion for comic books was more than a hobby. It was their escape, their creative outlet, and their secret rebellion. George, with his natural storytelling flair, would weave tales of daring heroes and dastardly villains, while Harold would meticulously illustrate them. Their crowning achievement, the meticulously crafted comic series Captain Underpants, was born from this collaboration, a testament to their youthful, boundless creativity and a humorous critique of their mundane school life. They envisioned Captain Underpants not just as a character, but as an embodiment of their desire for fun, for adventure, and for a world where the absurd could triumph over the ordinary. This dedication to their craft mirrored the dedication of the early pulp magazine creators and early comic book pioneers who poured their hearts into their work, often with limited resources but unlimited imagination. Mr. Krupp, on the other hand, was a man defined by his rigid adherence to rules and his palpable disdain for anything that smacked of fun or creativity. He saw George and Harold's imagination as a threat, their comic books as distractions, and their very existence as a nuisance. He was a creature of habit, his days a monotonous cycle of disciplinary actions and scolding. He was the antithesis of the vibrant, adventurous spirit that fueled George and Harold. One fateful morning, after one too many of George and Harold's pranks, Mr. Krupp finally snapped. He stormed into their classroom, determined to permanently silence their disruptive creativity by firing them from the school's cereal box fundraising committee. Driven by a surge of desperate inspiration and remembering the hypnotic power of George's elaborate tales of heroism, Harold quickly sketched a captivating visual. George, seeing his chance, uttered the magic words, a phrase so potent it seemed to resonate with the very essence of their comic hero. Tra-la-la! And then, the impossible happened. Krupp, the stern principal, began to transform. His rigid posture softened, his gruff demeanor dissolved, and in a dizzying display of spandex and undergarments, he became Captain Underpants. George and Harold, stunned but exhilarated, realized they had accidentally brought their most beloved creation to life. Captain Underpants, a superhero whose only superpower was his unwavering belief in justice and his penchant for wearing tighty-whities, was now a reality. His origin story, as they had penned it, was one of accidental heroism, a testament to the power of imagination and the unintended consequences of believing in something wholeheartedly. Their newfound superhero proved to be a force for good, albeit a hilariously clumsy one. He fought crime with gusto, though his methods often involved a great deal of shouting, wedgies, and a general disregard for conventional superhero etiquette. George and Harold, now the de facto trainers and managers of their creation, found themselves navigating the chaotic world of superheroics, a far cry from their quiet afternoons spent drawing comics. They marveled at how their simple characters, born from late-night brainstorming sessions and inspired by the sheer joy of storytelling, could possess such an impact on the real world. They saw in Captain Underpants a reflection of the heroes they admired in the comics they devoured, characters who, despite their flaws, always strived to do the right thing. However, their triumph was short-lived. A nefarious villain, Professor Poopypants, emerged from the shadows, a scientist driven by his own bizarre obsessions and a deep-seated hatred for laughter and joy, particularly anything involving potty humor, which he deemed beneath him. He concocted a diabolical plan to rid the world of laughter, a concept that George and Harold found utterly preposterous. Professor Poopypants' motivation stemmed from a personal vendetta, a lifelong struggle to be taken seriously, a sentiment that, in a twisted way, resonated with their own desire for their comics to be appreciated. He saw laughter as a frivolous waste of time, an obstacle to his own grand scientific ambitions. The boys, with their nascent superhero, Captain Underpants, found themselves in a desperate race against time. They had to outsmart Professor Poopypants, save their school, and more importantly, prevent Mr. Krupp from permanently reverting to his grumpy old self, a fate that would leave them without their most entertaining creation. Their journey was a testament to their unwavering friendship, their quick thinking, and the power of their combined imaginations. They learned that even the most absurd ideas, when fueled by passion and determination, could lead to extraordinary outcomes. Their adventure with Captain Underpants became their own epic tale, a story far grander and more thrilling than any they had ever drawn. A narrative that proved that the greatest adventures often begin with a simple idea and a dash of pure, unadulterated fun. Their escapades with Captain Underpants, however, weren't just about the thrill of the moment. They were deeply rooted in the boys' personal aspirations. George, ever the dreamer, saw in their superhero a validation of his own ambitious storytelling. He believed that with enough conviction and a healthy dose of silliness, even the most outlandish concepts could resonate with an audience, just like the beloved characters from his favorite comic books, the ones that made him laugh out loud and inspired him to create his own worlds. Harold, whose artistic hands could bring any vision to life, found an unparalleled joy in seeing his drawings leap from the page and embody tangible form. His lifelong dedication to honing his craft, from meticulously sketching during dull lectures to studying the panel layouts of legendary comic artists, had culminated in this extraordinary, albeit accidental, masterpiece. He often mused about how the early comic creators, driven by a passion for the medium, had forged paths that were now, in a way, being echoed by his and George's own improbable adventure. Krupp's transformation into Captain Underpants was, for the boys, a surreal vindication. He represented everything they fought against: the stifling authority, the suppression of imagination, and the relentless dullness that permeated their school life. Seeing him, their tormentor, embody the very spirit of fun and heroism they celebrated was a poetic justice they hadn't dared to fully envision. Captain Underpants, in his brightly colored briefs and billowing cape, was a manifestation of their desire for a world where joy could triumph, where even the most mundane individuals could discover an inner hero, especially when prompted by something as simple and universal as a catchy, nonsensical phrase. This resonated with the spirit of the early pulp heroes, who, despite their often simplistic motivations, represented a beacon of hope and excitement for their readers, offering an escape from everyday realities. But the emergence of Professor Poopy Pants cast a dark shadow over their newfound exhilaration. This villain, a man whose name was as ridiculous as his mission, was a stark reminder that not everyone shared George and Harold's appreciation for the absurd. Professor Poopy Pants embodied the very antithesis of their creative philosophy, a rigid, humorless intellect that sought to impose order through the eradication of laughter, a concept so fundamental to the boys' existence that its removal seemed unthinkable. His scientific endeavors, twisted by a deep-seated insecurity and a yearning for recognition, were fueled by a desire to silence the very things that made life bearable and fun. His animosity towards laughter and anything deemed childish mirrored the dismissive attitudes they often faced from adults, including Mr. Krupp himself, about their comic book endeavors. He was a dark mirror reflecting the potential consequences of letting cynicism and a thirst for validation curdle genuine creativity. The ensuing conflict was a whirlwind of chaotic brilliance. George and Harold, thrust into the roles of reluctant superhero handlers, had to rely on their quick wit and their profound understanding of their creation. They navigated Captain Underpants' unpredictable antics, his well-meaning but often misguided attempts at heroism, and his complete lack of understanding of his own origins. Their experiences mirrored the challenges faced by early comic creators who had to continuously innovate and adapt to keep their audiences engaged, constantly finding new ways to surprise and delight. They learned that the true power of their creation wasn't just its fantastical nature, but its ability to inspire hope and laughter, even in the face of overwhelming absurdity. The urgency to defeat Professor Poopy Pants wasn't just about saving the school. It was about preserving the very essence of fun and imagination that they and their beloved Captain Underpants represented. Their grand adventure, while a testament to their inventive minds and unwavering friendship, was also a profound exploration of their budding identities as creators. George, the architect of their wildest narratives, found a thrilling validation in seeing his complex, often outlandish plots take flight. He had always possessed a natural flair for storytelling, a gift that allowed him to weave intricate tales that captivated his audience. a skill he'd meticulously honed by dissecting the plot structures of his favorite comic book heroes, imagining himself as the next big name in sequential art. Harold, on the other hand, the artist whose steady hand brought George's visions to life, experienced a profound sense of fulfillment as his drawings literally sprang into 3 dimensions. His dedication to his craft, from the endless hours spent perfecting his character designs to his deep admiration for the pioneering artists who paved the way for comic books, had finally yielded something truly extraordinary. He felt a profound connection to those early creators who, with little more than paper and ink, had built entire universes that ignited the imaginations of millions. Krupp's transformation into Captain Underpants was, for George and Harold, a moment of both sheer disbelief and triumphant, albeit accidental, success. Their nemesis, the embodiment of everything they loathed about institutional authority and the crushing of youthful exuberance, was now their unlikely champion. Captain Underpants, with his unwavering belief in justice and his penchant for wedgies, was the living, breathing embodiment of their desire for a world where fun could dismantle oppression, where even the most dour individual could find an inner hero, especially when prompted by a catchy, nonsensical phrase like tra-la-la. This echoed the spirit of the early pulp heroes, who, despite their often simplistic origins, offered readers an escape from the mundane, a splash of color in a gray world. However, their exhilarating victory was soon overshadowed by the emergence of a truly sinister force: Professor Poopypants. This villain, whose very name was a testament to the boys' love for the absurd, represented the antithesis of their creative ethos. He was a man consumed by a rigid, humorless intellect, driven by a desperate need for recognition and a profound disdain for anything he deemed frivolous, especially laughter. His twisted genius was aimed at eradicating joy, a concept so fundamental to George and Harold's existence that its potential absence was a terrifying prospect. Professor Poopypants' obsession with serious science and his scorn for anything childish mirrored the dismissive attitudes they had often encountered, a bitter reminder of the external forces that sought to stifle creativity. He was a dark reflection of how insecurity and a thirst for validation could corrupt true artistic expression. The ensuing battle for the fate of Jerome Horwitz Elementary was a chaotic ballet of slapstick heroism and desperate ingenuity. George and Harold, thrust into the roles of reluctant superhero managers, found themselves relying on their sharp wits and their intimate knowledge of their creation. They navigated Captain Underpants' unpredictable antics, his well-intentioned but often misguided attempts at heroism, and his utter lack of awareness regarding his own dual identity. Their experiences mirrored the challenges faced by the early comic creators, who constantly had to innovate and adapt to keep their audiences captivated, forever searching for new ways to surprise and delight. They learned that the true magic of their creation wasn't just its fantastical nature, but its ability to inspire hope and laughter, even in the face of overwhelming absurdity. The urgent need to defeat Professor Poopypants was not merely about saving their school, it was about preserving the very essence of fun and imagination that they, and their magnificent Captain Underpants, so fiercely represented. The climactic confrontation unfolded with a glorious explosion of pratfalls and ingenious, albeit unconventional, solutions. Professor Poopypants, determined to unleash his laughter-eradicating gas, had transformed the school gymnasium into his personal laboratory of gloom. George and Harold, armed with their boundless imagination and a deep understanding of Captain Underpants' peculiar brand of heroism, found themselves orchestrating the final act. They realized that Captain Underpants' greatest strength wasn't his might, but his sheer, unadulterated joy and his ability to inspire it in others. It was a lesson learned from the very comics they devoured, stories where the underdog, armed with heart and a touch of madness, could overcome insurmountable odds. Their strategy involved a complex series of diversions and misdirections, each designed to exploit Professor Poopypants' own absurdities and Captain Underpants' uninhibited nature. George, with his knack for dramatic pacing, envisioned the perfect sequence of events, while Harold, with his artistic eye for detail, ensured the visual gags landed with maximum impact. They knew that Professor Poopy Pants' scientific brilliance was overshadowed by his crippling insecurity, and that Captain Underpants, in his blissful ignorance, was the perfect catalyst to expose it. The professor's desire for seriousness was his Achilles' heel, and the boys expertly exploited this by amplifying the very silliness he so desperately loathed. This reflected the core of their own creative process, which embraced the playful and the unexpected, drawing inspiration from the same wellspring of joy that fueled the early pioneers of animated cartoons and children's literature, who understood the power of a good laugh. In the ensuing pandemonium, Captain Underpants, in his typically enthusiastic but haphazard fashion, managed to incapacitate the professor's contraption. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated chaos, a symphony of flying undergarments and scientific jargon gone awry. George and Harold watched with bated breath, their hearts pounding with a mixture of terror and exhilaration. They had, through sheer force of will and an unwavering belief in their creation, managed to save the day. The victory was not just about defeating a villain, it was about proving that their imaginative world, so often dismissed as mere child's play, held a tangible power to bring about positive change, a power that rivaled the most serious scientific endeavors. As Professor Poopy Pants was apprehended, his laughter-eradicating gas neutralized. A sense of profound relief washed over the school. Krupp, having been returned to his usual grumpy self, was none the wiser about his brief stint as a spandex-clad superhero. The boys, however, carried the memory of their adventure, a secret that bound them even tighter. They had witnessed firsthand the incredible potential of their imaginations, the ability to transform the mundane into the extraordinary. This experience solidified their resolve to continue their creative pursuits, their passion for comic books now fueled by the knowledge that their stories could have a real-world impact, inspiring them to one day create an entire universe of characters as beloved and as impactful as Captain Underpants himself, following in the footsteps of the legendary creators who had inspired them from the pages of their cherished comic books. Their epic battle against Professor Poopy Pants culminated in a glorious display of their unique brand of heroism. The villain, driven by his twisted vision to eradicate laughter, had rigged the school gymnasium with his sinister invention, a potent gas designed to suck the mirth right out of the world. George and Harold, their minds working in perfect synchrony, understood that Captain Underpants' true superpower lay not in brute force, but in his infectious, uninhibited joy. This was a truth they had gleaned from their beloved comic books, where underdogs armed with heart and a touch of delightful absurdity often triumphed over seemingly insurmountable odds, much like the early pioneers of animation who understood the universal appeal of laughter. Their strategy was a masterclass in controlled chaos, a carefully orchestrated sequence designed to exploit both Professor Poopy Pants' inflated ego and Captain Underpants' delightful lack of self-awareness. George, a natural storyteller with an innate sense of dramatic timing, mapped out the perfect narrative arc, while Harold, with his keen artistic eye, ensured every visual gag landed with maximum comedic impact. They knew the professor's scientific genius was deeply flawed, undermined by a crippling insecurity, and Captain Underpants, in his blissful ignorance, was the perfect agent of chaos to expose this vulnerability. The boys masterfully amplified the very silliness the professor so detested, proving that embracing the absurd could be a powerful weapon against rigid conformity. This mirrored their own creative philosophy, which reveled in the unexpected and drew inspiration from the same wellspring of joy that fueled the early creators of children's literature and comedic performances. In the heart of the pandemonium, Captain Underpants, with his characteristic enthusiastic clumsiness, managed to dismantle the professor's laugh-snatching device. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated spectacle, a whirlwind of flying undergarments, nonsensical pronouncements, and scientific gadgets gone spectacularly wrong. George and Harold watched, their hearts pounding a frantic rhythm of fear and elation. They had, through sheer force of will and an unwavering belief in their creation, successfully defended their school. This victory was more than just defeating a villain. It was a profound affirmation that their imaginative world, so often dismissed as mere childish fancy, possessed a tangible power to enact positive change, a power that rivaled even the most serious scientific endeavors. As Professor Poopy Pants was apprehended, his diabolical gas neutralized, a wave of profound relief washed over Jerome Horwitz Elementary. Krupp, having been restored to his perpetually grumpy self, remained blissfully unaware of his brief, albeit heroic stint as a spandex-clad crusader. George and Harold, however, were forever changed by the experience. They carried the memory of their adventure as a shared secret, a bond that deepened their already unbreakable friendship. They had witnessed firsthand the incredible, almost magical potential of their imaginations, the power to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. This adventure solidified their commitment to their creative pursuits, their passion for comic books now imbued with the knowledge that their stories could have a real-world impact. They were inspired to continue creating, to build an entire universe of characters, as beloved and as influential as Captain Underpants. Following in the hallowed footsteps of the legendary creators who had ignited their own imaginations from the pages of their cherished comic books. The echoes of their triumphant adventure lingered, a sweet melody in the otherwise monotonous halls of Jerome Horwitz Elementary. George and Harold, the dynamic duo behind Captain Underpants, found their perspectives irrevocably altered. The world, once a canvas for their pranks and doodles, now seemed brimming with possibilities, a testament to the power of their shared imagination. Their secret, the knowledge that they had quite literally brought their comic book hero to life, was a potent elixir, invigorating their creative spirits. They saw themselves as inheritors of a grand tradition, following in the footsteps of the early comic book pioneers whose audacious storytelling and boundless creativity had captured the hearts of generations. Just as those artists had transformed simple ink and paper into escapist fantasies, George and Harold had manifested their own hero, proving that the line between imagination and reality could indeed blur. Krupp, oblivious to his brief heroic alter ego, returned to his familiar routine of disciplinary pronouncements and stern glares. Yet, for George and Harold, he was no longer just the tyrannical principal. He was Captain Underpants in disguise, a constant reminder of the extraordinary potential hidden beneath the ordinary. This realization fueled their desire to continue creating, to craft more stories that would not only entertain, but also empower. They understood that Captain Underpants, in his simplistic yet profound way, represented the triumph of good over evil, of fun over conformity, and of courage over fear. His unwavering, if somewhat misguided belief in justice mirrored the aspirational nature of the heroes George had idolized in his comic books, the ones who always managed to find a way, no matter the odds. Harold, in turn, felt a renewed sense of purpose in his art, knowing that his drawings could have such a tangible positive impact, a sentiment shared by the illustrators who brought to life the fantastical worlds of early pulp fiction. Their success wasn't just a fleeting moment of childish fancy. It was a profound validation of their creative journey. They had faced down a villain whose very existence was a commentary on the dangers of unchecked ambition and the suppression of joy. Professor Poopy Pants, in his quest to silence laughter, represented the kind of bleak, humorless future that George and Harold actively fought against with every comic book they created and every prank they orchestrated. The boys' victory was a powerful statement that imagination, humor, and a healthy dose of silliness could indeed be potent forces for good, capable of overcoming even the most serious and destructive of intentions. They had learned that the art of storytelling, much like the early animated films that brought smiles to millions, wasn't just about entertainment. It was about shaping perceptions, fostering empathy, and inspiring hope. As they looked towards the future, George and Harold felt an even deeper commitment to their craft. Their adventure with Captain Underpants was not an endpoint, but a magnificent beginning. They envisioned a future filled with more outrageous characters, more thrilling escapades, and more opportunities to prove that the power of creativity could transform the world, one hilarious, underpant-clad hero at a time. They carried within them the spirit of the legendary creators who had inspired them, ready to embark on their own epic journeys, forever bound by the shared secret of Captain Underpants and the enduring magic of their friendship. Their journey was a testament to the fact that even the most unlikely of heroes could emerge from the most ordinary of circumstances, fueled by imagination and the unwavering belief that a little bit of fun could make all the difference. The indelible mark left by their grand adventure with Captain Underpants reshaped George and Harold's perspective on their world. The mundane corridors of Jerome Horwitz Elementary, once a mere backdrop for their elaborate pranks and creative scribblings, now pulsed with an almost palpable sense of possibility. This newfound understanding of their shared power, the astounding reality that they had literally conjured their beloved comic book hero into existence, acted as a potent catalyst for their imaginations. They felt themselves to be inheritors of a rich, vibrant tradition, consciously tracing the lineage of the early comic book pioneers. These were the artists who, with audacious narratives and an almost reckless abandon of creativity, had forged indelible connections with countless readers. Much like those early visionaries transformed simple ink and paper into vibrant, escapist fantasies, George and Harold had brought forth their own champion, proving that the boundary between the imagined and the tangible was far more permeable than most believed. Krupp, blissfully unaware of his brief, spandex-clad sojourn as a superhero, resumed his customary role as the school's stern overseer. His pronouncements of detention and his piercing glares remained unchanged. However, for George and Harold, he was no longer simply the tyrannical principal. He was Captain Underpants in disguise, a living, breathing testament to the extraordinary potential that could lie hidden beneath the most ordinary of exteriors. This constant, secret reminder fueled their burgeoning desire to create even more stories, narratives that would not only entertain, but also subtly empower their audience. They understood that Captain Underpants, despite his often comical shortcomings, embodied a fundamental truth: the triumph of good over the mundane, the boundless spirit of fun over stifling conformity, and the quiet courage that could overcome pervasive fear. His unwavering, though sometimes misguided, commitment to justice mirrored the very essence of the heroes George had devoured in his comic books, the kind of characters who always found a way, against all odds, to prevail. Harold, in turn, felt a profound revitalization of his artistic purpose, a deep-seated understanding that his drawings held the potential for tangible, positive impact, a sentiment echoed by the illustrators who breathed life into the fantastical realms of early pulp fiction and serialized adventures. Their remarkable victory was far more than a fleeting moment of childish exuberance. It was a profound validation of their entire creative journey. They had successfully confronted a villain whose very existence served as a stark commentary on the perils of unchecked ambition and the suffocating grip of joyless conformity. Professor Poopy Pants, in his fervent mission to silence laughter, represented precisely the kind of bleak, humorless future that George and Harold actively resisted through every comic book they penned and every prank they orchestrated. Their triumph served as a powerful, irrefutable assertion that imagination, humor, and a healthy dose of joyful silliness could indeed serve as potent forces for good, capable of dismantling even the most serious and destructive of intentions. They had discovered that the art of storytelling, much like the early animated films that brought unadulterated smiles to millions, transcended mere entertainment. It possessed the capacity to shape perspectives, foster empathy, and, most importantly, to inspire hope. As they gazed towards the horizon of their future, George and Harold felt an even deeper, more unwavering commitment to their chosen craft. Their extraordinary adventure with Captain Underpants was not merely an endpoint, but a magnificent, exhilarating beginning. They envisioned a future teeming with more outrageously conceived characters, more thrilling, laugh-out-loud escapades, and countless more opportunities to demonstrate that the transformative power of creativity could indeed reshape the world, one hilariously underpant-clad hero at a time. They carried within them the indelible spirit of the legendary creators who had served as their guiding lights, now poised to embark on their own epic journeys. They were forever bound by the shared thrilling secret of Captain Underpants and the enduring, unbreakable magic of their friendship, a testament to the profound truth that even the most unlikely of heroes could emerge from the most ordinary of circumstances, propelled by the boundless fuel of imagination and the unwavering belief that a little bit of fun could indeed make all the difference. Their shared secret, the knowledge that they had, quite literally, brought their comic book hero to life, was a potent elixir. It invigorated their creative spirits, transforming the already vibrant tapestry of their friendship into something even more profound. They saw themselves not just as boys who loved drawing comics, but as inheritors of a grand tradition, consciously tracing the lineage of the early comic book pioneers. These were the artists who, with audacious storytelling and a boundless, almost reckless creativity, had captured the hearts and imaginations of generations. Much like those early visionaries transformed simple ink and paper into vibrant, escapist fantasies, George and Harold had manifested their own hero, proving that the line between imagination and reality was far more permeable than most believed. They felt a surge of pride, a quiet understanding that their creations held a power beyond mere entertainment. Krupp, oblivious to his brief spandex-clad sojourn as a superhero, returned to his familiar routine of disciplinary pronouncements and stern glares. Yet, for George and Harold, he was no longer just the tyrannical principal. He was Captain Underpants in disguise, a constant, exhilarating reminder of the extraordinary potential hidden beneath the most ordinary of exteriors. This secret understanding fueled their desire to continue creating, to craft more stories that would not only entertain, but also subtly empower. They understood that Captain Underpants, in his simplistic yet profound way, represented the triumph of good over the mundane, of fun over conformity, and of courage over fear. His unwavering, if sometimes misguided belief in justice mirrored the aspirational nature of the heroes George had devoured in his comic books, the ones who always managed to find a way, no matter the odds. Harold, in turn, felt a renewed sense of purpose in his art, knowing that his drawings could have such a tangible, positive impact, a sentiment deeply shared by the illustrators who brought to life the fantastical worlds of early pulp fiction and serialized adventures, who poured their own passion into every line. Their success, however fleeting, was not just a moment of childish fancy. It was a profound validation of their creative journey. They had learned that the art of storytelling, much like the early animated films that brought smiles to millions, wasn't just about entertainment. It was about shaping perceptions, fostering empathy, and inspiring hope, echoing the earnest intentions of those early creators who believed in the power of their art to uplift and inspire. Their journey was a testament to the fact that even the most unlikely of heroes could emerge from the most ordinary of circumstances, fueled by imagination and the unwavering belief that a little bit of fun could make all the difference, a sentiment that echoed the very soul of the comic books they cherished. The lingering warmth of their shared secret became the constant hum beneath the surface of their daily lives. George and Harold, the architects of Captain Underpants' brief but impactful reign, found that their world had subtly, yet irrevocably, shifted. The drab hallways of Jerome Horwitz Elementary, once merely a stage for their elaborate pranks and imaginative doodles, now seemed alive with a vibrant, almost tangible sense of possibility. The realization that they had, in essence, willed their comic book hero into existence acted as a powerful elixir, injecting an unprecedented surge of creative energy into their already formidable friendship. They no longer saw themselves simply as boys who loved to draw comics. They felt an intrinsic connection to a lineage, consciously tracing the path laid by the early comic book pioneers. These were the visionaries who, armed with audacious narratives and an almost reckless abandon of creativity, had etched themselves into the hearts and imaginations of generations. Just as those early artists had transformed humble ink and paper into immersive, escapist fantasies, George and Harold had successfully manifested their own champion, demonstrating a profound truth: the permeable boundary between the realm of imagination and the tangible world. A quiet pride settled within them, a deep understanding that their creations possessed a power that transcended mere entertainment. Krupp, in his perpetual state of oblivious grumpiness, resumed his familiar role as the school's staunch disciplinarian. His pronouncements of detention and his intimidating glares remained unchanged. However, for George and Harold, he was now more than just the tyrannical principal. He was Captain Underpants in disguise, a living, breathing, and slightly absurd reminder of the extraordinary potential that could lie dormant beneath even the most ordinary exteriors. This constant, thrilling secret fueled their ever-growing desire to create more stories, narratives that would not only captivate, but also subtly empower their readers. They understood that Captain Underpants, in his beautifully simple yet profoundly impactful way, embodied a core truth: the enduring triumph of good over the mundane, the unbridled spirit of fun over the suffocating grip of conformity, and the quiet courage that could dismantle pervasive fear. His unwavering, albeit sometimes hilariously misguided commitment to justice mirrored the very aspirations that had driven George to devour his comic books, seeking out heroes who always found a way, against all conceivable odds, to emerge victorious. Harold, in turn, felt a profound revitalization of his artistic purpose. He possessed a deep-seated understanding that his drawings, his meticulous lines, and vibrant colors held the potential for tangible, positive impact, a sentiment deeply shared by the illustrators who had breathed life into the fantastical realms of early pulp fiction and serialized adventures, pouring their own boundless passion into every stroke. Their remarkable victory, however brief its public manifestation, was far more than a fleeting moment of childish exuberance. It served as a profound validation of their entire creative journey. They had confronted, and ultimately vanquished, a villain whose very existence was a poignant commentary on the insidious dangers of unchecked ambition and the suffocating grip of joyless conformity. Professor Poopy Pants, in his fervent, misguided quest to silence the very essence of laughter, represented precisely the kind of bleak, humorless future that George and Harold actively resisted with every comic book they penned and every carefully orchestrated prank they executed. Their triumph was a powerful, irrefutable assertion that imagination, humor, and a healthy dose of uninhibited silliness could indeed serve as potent forces for good, capable of dismantling even the most serious and destructive of intentions. They had discovered through their extraordinary adventure that the art of storytelling, much like the early animated films that had brought unadulterated smiles to millions, transcended mere entertainment. It possessed the profound capacity to shape perspectives, foster empathy, and, most importantly, to inspire enduring hope. Echoing the earnest intentions of those early creators who firmly believed in the transformative power of their art to uplift and inspire. As they gazed towards the horizon of their future, a vast expanse now illuminated by the glow of their recent triumph, George and Harold felt an even deeper, more unwavering commitment to their chosen craft. They were forever bound by the shared, exhilarating secret of Captain Underpants and the enduring, unbreakable magic of their friendship, a testament to the profound truth that even the most unlikely of heroes could emerge from the most ordinary of circumstances, propelled by the boundless fuel of imagination and the unwavering belief that a little bit of fun, no matter how absurd, could indeed make all the difference in the world. The afterglow of their extraordinary adventure with Captain Underpants settled upon George and Harold like a warm secret embrace. The mundane walls of Jerome Horwitz Elementary, once just a canvas for their mischievous escapades and elaborate doodles, now seemed to thrum with an almost palpable sense of possibility. The profound realization that they had, through the sheer force of their imagination and a touch of accidental magic, brought their beloved comic book hero to life acted as a potent elixir, infusing their already unbreakable friendship with an even deeper layer of shared understanding and purpose. They no longer viewed themselves as mere boys who loved to draw comics. They felt a deep kinship with a lineage of creative spirits, consciously tracing the paths blazed by the early comic book pioneers. These were the visionaries who, armed with audacious narratives and an almost reckless abandon of creativity, had captured the hearts and ignited the imaginations of generations. Just as those early artists had transformed humble ink and paper into vibrant, immersive fantasies, George and Harold had successfully manifested their own champion, proving that the boundary between the imagined and the tangible was far more permeable than most people dared to believe. A quiet yet powerful sense of pride settled within them, a shared understanding that their creations held a power that extended far beyond simple entertainment. Krupp, blissfully unaware of his brief, spandex-clad sojourn as a superhero, returned to his familiar routine of disciplinary pronouncements and stern glares. His authority, once a source of constant dread, now held a slightly ironic tinge for the boys. For George and Harold, He was no longer simply the tyrannical principal. He was Captain Underpants in disguise, a living, breathing, and hilariously absurd reminder of the extraordinary potential that could lie dormant beneath even the most ordinary of exteriors. Harold, in turn, felt a profound revitalization of his artistic purpose. Captain Underpants. The first epic movie is a vibrant explosion of childish imagination brought to life through a surprisingly cohesive narrative. At its core, the film is a celebration of creativity, the power of friendship, and the enduring appeal of the absurd. The story centers on George Beard and Harold Hutchins, two fourth graders with an unshakable bond and a penchant for pranks that would make any principal's hair stand on end. Their shared passion for comic books and storytelling is not just a hobby. It's their escape, their way of making sense of a world often perceived as rigid and uninspiring, particularly within the confines of Jerome Horwitz Elementary School, ruled by the perpetually grumpy Mr. Krupp. George and Harold's artistic endeavors are deeply rooted in the tradition of self-published zines and DIY comics. Their creation, Captain Underpants, is a direct descendant of countless underground comics and children's illustrated books that thrive on simple, bold visuals and exaggerated action. The very act of creating these comics is an act of rebellion against the mundane, a testament to their desire to inject fun and heroism into their everyday lives. Their inspiration likely stems from a childhood spent devouring the works of cartoonists who masterfully blend humor with a touch of anarchy. Think of the early days of comic strips like Calvin and Hobbes, where a child's imagination could manifest as a tangible force, or even the slapstick sensibilities found in classic animation. The film's visual style, with its hand-drawn aesthetic and energetic line work, directly mirrors the very comics George and Harold create, blurring the lines between reality and their fantastical world. Mr. Krupp, their nemesis, is the embodiment of oppressive order. His transformation into the titular Captain Underpants is the film's central magical conceit, a consequence of the boys hypnotizing him using a 3D hypno ring. This transformation is not just a plot device, it's a potent metaphor for how youthful enthusiasm can disrupt and even invert established authority. Krupp's stern demeanor, his obsession with rules, and his utter lack of imagination stand in stark contrast to the boy's boundless creativity. His eventual donning of underpants and a cape signifies the shedding of his rigid persona, albeit temporarily, and the embracing of a more playful, albeit chaotic, existence. The humor derived from this transformation is deeply embedded in situational irony and physical comedy, reminiscent of classic vaudeville routines and early silent films where characters found themselves in preposterous predicaments. The introduction of Professor Poopypants, a villain with an equally absurd name and a misguided mission to eradicate laughter, further amplifies the film's thematic concerns. Poopypants, who sees humor as a sign of intellectual weakness, represents the antithesis of everything George and Harold stand for. His invention, the tra-la-la-inator, designed to make everyone speak in monotone, is a direct assault on joy and individuality. His own backstory, marked by ridicule for his unusual name, adds a layer of pathos, suggesting that even villains can be born from experiences of being misunderstood or ostracized. The dynamic between Captain Underpants and Professor Poopypants is a classic good versus evil, albeit filtered through a decidedly childish lens, where the stakes are high but the methods are inherently silly. The film's pacing is relentless, mirroring the energetic scribbles of a child's drawing. Each scene propels forward with a quick wit and a constant barrage of gags. The animation itself is a character, with its fluid movements, expressive faces, and an almost overwhelming amount of visual information. This visual richness, combined with the sharp, often meta-humor, appeals not only to children but also to adults who can appreciate the clever subversion of tropes and the nostalgic nod to simpler forms of storytelling. The narrative cleverly weaves in elements of comic book structure, including chapter-like segments and visual sound effects, further immersing the audience in the world George and Harold have constructed. The success of the film lies in its unwavering commitment to its core concept, never shying away from the inherent silliness of its premise, and in doing so, creating something genuinely funny and heartwarming. The unwavering friendship between George and Harold is the emotional bedrock of the film. Their shared bedroom, transformed into a creative treehouse, serves as their sanctuary, a space where the mundane realities of school and Mr. Krupp's disciplinary reign fade away, replaced by the limitless possibilities of their imagination. This treehouse, adorned with their comic creations and cluttered with art supplies, is a visual representation of their collaborative spirit. Their banter, their inside jokes, and their mutual understanding highlight a bond that is both profound and hilariously chaotic. They are not just friends, they are co-creators, each fueling the other's wildest ideas. This symbiotic relationship allows them to overcome obstacles, whether it's dodging detention or ultimately saving the day from Professor Poopy Pants. Their courage, amplified by their shared belief in Captain Underpants, becomes a potent force, proving that even the smallest of individuals can achieve extraordinary feats when they stand together. The genuine affection between George and Harold is palpable, making their triumphant moments all the more rewarding. Krupp, before his transformation, is depicted as a man suffocated by his own rigidity. His perpetual scowl, his drab attire, and his monotone voice are outward manifestations of an inner emptiness. He sees the boy's creativity not as a gift, but as a source of disruption. His motivation, though seemingly rooted in a desire for order, feels more like a defense mechanism against the unpredictable nature of childhood. His transformation into Captain Underpants, however, reveals a latent sense of heroism buried beneath layers of cynicism. While the initial transformation is accidental, the film suggests that the Captain persona, with its inherent silliness and good intentions, taps into something deeper within Krupp, something he has long suppressed. The comedic irony of his situation, a man who despises fun becoming the embodiment of it, is a source of constant amusement, and it allows for a subtle exploration of the idea that everyone, no matter how stern, has a playful side waiting to be unleashed. His reluctant embrace of heroism, driven by the boy's guidance and the absurd circumstances, offers a glimmer of hope that even the most hardened individuals can be touched by the power of imagination. Professor Poopy Pants' character, despite his outlandish name and sinister plot, carries a surprisingly poignant undertone. His deep-seated insecurity, born from a lifetime of being mocked for his name, fuels his animosity towards laughter. This makes his villainy, while still cartoonish, relatable on a fundamental level. He represents the destructive potential of unchecked insecurity and the dangers of allowing past hurts to dictate present actions. His desire to silence laughter isn't just about control. It's about silencing the very thing that made him feel small and insignificant. The film cleverly uses his character to underscore the importance of empathy and understanding, even towards those who seem irredeemably villainous. His eventual defeat, while satisfyingly comical, also hints at the possibility of redemption, or at least a moment of self-awareness, as he is ultimately forced to confront the emptiness of his crusade. His presence, therefore, elevates the film beyond simple slapstick, injecting a thematic resonance that speaks to the power of acceptance and the devastating consequences of rejection. The film's visual language is a direct extension of George and Harold's artistic sensibilities, employing a vibrant, almost hyperactive color palette that pulsates with youthful energy. The animation style itself is a clever pastiche, blending traditional 2D animation with CGI elements in a way that mimics the layered, cut-and-paste aesthetic of handmade comic books. This deliberate choice not only serves the narrative, but also acts as a meta-commentary on the very act of creation, showcasing how disparate elements can be brought together to form something cohesive and engaging. The exaggerated facial expressions, the dynamic action sequences, and the liberal use of on-screen text and sound effects are all nods to the visual grammar of comics, transforming the viewing experience into something akin to flipping through the pages of a beloved graphic novel. This immersive quality is crucial as it allows the audience to fully inhabit the world of George and Harold, experiencing their triumphs and tribulations through their unfiltered, imaginative lens. The humor in Captain Underpants is multi-layered, catering to both the overt silliness that delights children and the more subtle, often meta, jokes that resonate with adults. The relentless parade of puns, wordplay, and sight gags is relentless, ensuring that laughter is a constant companion throughout the film. However, beneath the surface-level absurdity lies a sharp wit that skewers common childhood anxieties and adult sensibilities. The film's willingness to embrace the ridiculous, to find humor in the most unexpected places, is its greatest strength. This is exemplified in the very premise of the titular character, a hypno-addled principal in his underwear. It's a concept so inherently absurd that it transcends simple silliness and becomes a vehicle for exploring themes of liberation and self-expression. The film doesn't shy away from the juvenile, instead reveling in it, and in doing so, it taps into a universal childhood desire to break free from the constraints of adulthood and embrace the pure joy of unadulterated fun. The narrative, while seemingly chaotic, is underpinned by a strong emotional core, primarily driven by the unwavering friendship between George and Harold. Their loyalty to each other is absolute, their bond forged in shared mischief and a mutual understanding that the world is a much better place when approached with a sense of wonder and playfulness. This friendship is not just a plot point, it's the engine that drives the entire story. When faced with adversity, it is their combined strength and unwavering belief in each other that allows them to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. This emphasis on friendship is a powerful message, reminding audiences that connection and shared experiences are often the most potent weapons against loneliness and despair, even in the face of a grim, rule-bound school environment. The film's success can also be attributed to its astute understanding of its source material and its creators. Dav Pilkey, the author of the Captain Underpants books, is known for his own struggles with ADHD and dyslexia, which deeply influenced his writing and his empathy for children who feel different or misunderstood. This personal connection imbues the film with an authenticity and heart that transcends its comedic exterior. George and Harold, with their boundless imagination and their tendency to challenge authority, are direct reflections of Pilkey's own childhood experiences. The film, in turn, celebrates these qualities, presenting them not as flaws, but as sources of strength and resilience. This celebration of individuality and the power of creative thinking is a vital element, offering a message of hope and empowerment to children who may feel marginalized or overlooked. The character of Melvin Sneedley, the school's resident super genius and antagonist by proxy, offers a fascinating counterpoint to George and Harold's more anarchic creativity. Melvin represents intellectual prowess unburdened by the joyful messiness of imagination. His inventions, while technically impressive, are often sterile and serve his own desire for order and recognition, rather than genuine problem-solving or fun. His constant need to prove his superiority and his rigid adherence to logic highlight the limitations of an intelligence that lacks empathy or a sense of whimsy. His eventual begrudging alliance with George and Harold against Professor Poopypants, however, suggests a potential for growth, hinting that even the most logical minds can be swayed by the irresistible force of collaborative absurdity. His arc, though minor, underscores the film's message that different forms of intelligence can coexist and even complement each other when channeled towards a common, if unconventional, goal. The final confrontation with Professor Poopypants on the school roof, a chaotic ballet of flying robots and hyperspace technology, culminates in Captain Underpants, embracing his ridiculousness as his greatest strength. The Tra-La-La-Inator is ultimately defeated not by brute force or superior intellect, but by the sheer, overwhelming power of laughter, amplified by Captain Underpants' own uninhibited silliness. This moment is a triumphant affirmation of the film's central thesis, that joy, imagination, and a good dose of absurdity are essential antidotes to the soul-crushing weight of conformity and negativity. The resolution, where Mr. Krupp is returned to his grumpy self, but with a lingering hint of the captain within, suggests that the experience, however strange, has left an indelible mark. The ending, with George and Harold already plotting their next adventure, emphasizes the enduring nature of their creativity and the unending potential for further comedic chaos, reinforcing the idea that their story is far from over. The film's engagement with the concept of heroism is refreshingly unconventional, framing it not as a grand, self-sacrificing endeavor, but as an emergent quality born from necessity and fueled by sheer, unadulterated silliness. Captain Underpants, in his pristine white briefs and hastily tied cape, is the antithesis of the stoic, brooding superhero archetype. His bravery isn't born from years of training or a tragic backstory. It stems from a pure, almost childlike impulse to protect his friends and uphold a sense of right, however misguided his methods might be. This is a heroism that embraces the ridiculous, finding its strength in its own absurdity. The boy's belief in him is not just a narrative device, it's a testament to the power of faith in the improbable, demonstrating that even the most unlikely champions can rise to the occasion when they are believed in. This approach deconstructs the very notion of heroism, suggesting that anyone, regardless of their background or their attire, can be a hero if they possess the courage to act and the will to do good, even if that good is achieved through a series of pratfalls and underwear-related mishaps. The emotional resonance of the film is deeply tied to its exploration of childhood anxieties and the longing for escape. George and Harold's constant battle against Mr. Krupp and the sterile environment of their school mirrors, the real-world challenges many children face in navigating a world that often prioritizes order and conformity over creativity and individuality. Their comic books and the creation of Captain Underpants are not just pastimes. They are vital coping mechanisms, portals to a world where they have agency and where their imaginations reign supreme. The film taps into this universal desire for a sanctuary, a place where one can be oneself without judgment. The joy and freedom experienced by Captain Underpants, even in his chaotic state, represent the unbridled spirit that children aspire to. The film's ability to evoke these feelings, to connect with the audience on an emotional level through its whimsical narrative, is a testament to its skillful blend of humor and heart. It's a story that understands the importance of play, the power of friendship, and the enduring magic of believing in something extraordinary, even if that something is a man in his underwear. The supporting characters, though less central, contribute significantly to the film's rich tapestry of humor and thematic depth. The perpetually exasperated teachers at Jerome Horwitz Elementary, such as Ms. Ribble and Mr. Fide, serve as a chorus of adult exasperation, their weary sighs and disapproving glances underscoring the daily chaos George and Harold unleash. Ms. Ribble, in particular, with her initial stern demeanor and subsequent transformation into a zombie by Professor Poopy Pants, provides a moment of genuine, albeit darkly comedic, terror, which is quickly diffused by the sheer absurdity of the situation. Her journey from an authority figure to a victim of Professor Poopy Pants' machinations highlights the vulnerability of even those who attempt to maintain order in the face of overwhelming imaginative forces. Fide, whose obsession with meticulous order is comically disrupted by the slightest deviation from the norm, embodies the adult world's often rigid expectations that clash with the fluid nature of childhood imagination. The film's embrace of the meta-narrative, where George and Harold are aware they are creating the story as it unfolds, adds a unique layer of engagement. This self-awareness allows for direct addresses to the audience, breaking the fourth wall in a manner that feels organic to the character's comic book creation process. It blurs the lines between the story on screen and the act of storytelling itself, creating a dynamic where the audience becomes a participant in the boys' creative endeavors. This technique, inspired by the very nature of comic books where panels and narration can directly engage the reader, enhances the film's playful and self-referential humor, inviting viewers to appreciate the artistry and inventiveness behind the animated world. It's a sophisticated touch that elevates the film beyond a simple children's movie, offering a clever nod to the craft of animation and storytelling. The visual design of the film is a masterclass in capturing the essence of a child's boundless imagination. The bright, saturated colors, the exaggerated character designs, and the sheer kinetic energy of the animation all contribute to a world that feels alive with possibility. The distinct visual styles used to represent different elements, The clean, sterile look of Mr. Krupp's office juxtaposed with the vibrant, chaotic energy of George and Harold's treehouse effectively communicate the thematic divide between conformity and creativity. The way the animation itself mimics the hand-drawn quality of the Captain Underpants comics, complete with visible pencil lines and textured paper, further immerses the audience in the boys' world, making their creations feel tangible and real. This meticulous attention to detail in the visual presentation is crucial to the film's success in translating the spirit of Dav Pilkey's books to the screen, ensuring that the magic and humor translate seamlessly. The film masterfully navigates the delicate balance between chaotic whimsy and a surprisingly coherent plot, a testament to its understanding of how children process narratives. The rapid-fire pacing, punctuated by visual gags and unexpected plot turns, mirrors the attention span of its target audience while simultaneously engaging adult viewers with its clever meta-commentary. This pacing isn't just about keeping things moving, it's about immersing the viewer in the frenetic energy of George and Harold's minds, where ideas collide and transform with exhilarating speed. The constant visual stimulation, the vibrant colors, and the exaggerated character movements all serve to amplify the feeling of a world bursting at the seams with imagination, a world where anything, no matter how outlandish, is possible. The very act of watching the film becomes an experience akin to flipping through a favorite comic book, with each scene offering a new visual delight or a punchline delivered with perfect comedic timing. The narrative's underlying emotional currents, particularly the profound bond between George and Harold, are what truly anchor the film's comedic flights of fancy. Their unwavering loyalty and their shared belief in the power of their own creativity serve as the film's heart. This friendship isn't simply a plot device, it's the engine that drives their courage and their resilience. When faced with adversity, whether it's the threat of Mr. Krupp's draconian disciplinary measures or the existential danger posed by Professor Poopy Pants, it is their combined strength and mutual support that allow them to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. This emphasis on the power of friendship resonates deeply, reminding audiences that connection and shared experiences are often the most potent weapons against loneliness and despair, even within the confines of a rigid and uninspiring school environment. The film champions the idea that true strength lies not in individual prowess, but in the collective spirit of camaraderie. The character of Mr. Krupp, in his initial guise, embodies the oppressive force of adult conformity and the suppression of joy. His perpetually dour expression, his monotone voice, and his rigid adherence to rules paint a picture of a man suffocated by his own lack of imagination. He views the boy's creative endeavors not as a source of joy, but as a disruptive force to be quashed. However, his transformation into Captain Underpants, while driven by hypnosis, reveals a latent spark of heroism, a capacity for uninhibited silliness that lies dormant beneath layers of cynicism. The comedic irony of his situation, a man who loathes fun becoming its very embodiment, is a rich source of humor and offers a subtle commentary on the idea that even the most stern individuals harbor a playful spirit waiting to be unleashed. His reluctant embrace of heroism, guided by the boy's unwavering faith, suggests that transformation, even in its most absurd form, is always possible. Professor Poopy Pants, despite his outlandish persona, serves as a poignant reminder of the destructive power of insecurity and the deep-seated pain that can arise from being ridiculed. His desperate desire to eradicate laughter stems directly from a lifetime of being mocked for his name. This makes his villainy, while cartoonish, surprisingly relatable. He represents the antithesis of everything George and Harold stand for: the embrace of individuality and the celebration of joy. His invention, the tra-la-la-inator, designed to silence all laughter and force monotonous speech, is a symbolic attack on creativity and self-expression. The film uses his character to underscore the importance of empathy and understanding, suggesting that even those who appear to be villains may have their roots in experiences of rejection and misunderstanding. His eventual defeat, while satisfyingly comedic, also hints at the possibility of self-awareness, as he is forced to confront the emptiness of his destructive crusade. His presence elevates the film, injecting a thematic resonance that speaks to the devastating consequences of rejection and the vital importance of acceptance. The film's narrative structure, with its chapter-like segments and distinct visual cues, further immerses the audience in the world of comic book creation. This stylistic choice directly mirrors the very medium George and Harold are passionate about, making the storytelling process itself an integral part of the viewing experience. It's as if the audience is not just watching a movie, but is actively participating in the boys' imaginative journey, from the initial spark of an idea to the final triumphant panel. This meta-narrative approach, where the story acknowledges its own construction, fosters a unique connection between the characters and the viewers, blurring the lines between fiction and reality in a playful, engaging manner. It's a sophisticated technique that pays homage to the interactive nature of comic books and the boundless potential of collaborative storytelling, where every element, from the dialogue to the visual effects, contributes to the overall narrative fabric. The animated sequences themselves are a character in their own right, bursting with an infectious energy that reflects the uninhibited spirit of childhood. The fluid character designs, the exaggerated movements, and the dynamic use of color all contribute to a visual feast that is both captivating and hilarious. The animation style, a vibrant fusion of traditional 2D techniques and CG elements, perfectly captures the tactile feel of a hand-drawn comic book, complete with visible pencil lines and a slightly roughened texture. This deliberate artistic choice not only enhances the film's aesthetic appeal, but also serves as a constant reminder of the boys' creative process, grounding the fantastical elements in the tangible reality of their artistic endeavors. The way light bounces off surfaces, the subtle shifts in character expressions, and the sheer dynamism of the action sequences all work in harmony to create a world that is both believable and exhilaratingly imaginative. The emotional core of the film, however, lies in the unwavering friendship between George and Harold. Their bond is not merely stated, it is demonstrated through their shared laughter, their mutual support, and their unshakable belief in each other's abilities. They are a testament to the power of true companionship, a unit where each individual's strengths complement the other's weaknesses, creating a force that is far greater than the sum of its parts. This friendship is the bedrock upon which their entire world is built, a constant source of inspiration and resilience in the face of adversity. Their adventures, while often chaotic and absurd, are always underscored by this deep and genuine affection, making their triumphs all the more meaningful and their setbacks all the more poignant. It's a reminder that even in a world that can often feel isolating, the presence of a true friend can make all the difference. The film's successful transplantation of Dav Pilkey's beloved book series to the big screen is largely due to its unwavering commitment to authenticity. The creators understood that the essence of Captain Underpants lies not just in its slapstick humor or its absurd premise, but in its genuine affection for the creative spirit of childhood and its empathetic portrayal of kids who might feel misunderstood. This authenticity is evident in the visual design, which meticulously recreates the look and feel of the books, from the crudely drawn characters and hand-lettered sound effects to the overall DIY aesthetic. The animation itself feels like a living, breathing comic strip, with every line and every color choice reflecting the energetic and slightly chaotic nature of George and Harold's imagination. This faithfulness to the source material ensures that longtime fans will feel right at home, while new audiences will be drawn in by the film's unique charm and infectious enthusiasm. The humor, a constant barrage of puns, sight gags, and a healthy dose of juvenile silliness, is perfectly pitched to appeal to both children and adults. Children will undoubtedly revel in the physical comedy, the outrageous transformations, and the sheer absurdity of a superhero who fights crime in his underpants. Adults, however, will find layers of subtle satire and meta-commentary, appreciating the film's wink-and-nod approach to superhero tropes and its clever subversion of conventional storytelling. The humor is never mean-spirited. Even Mr. Krupp, in his initial grumpiness, is portrayed with a touch of underlying humanity that makes his transformation all the more surprising and delightful. The film understands that true comedy often stems from recognizing the absurdity in everyday life, and it fearlessly embraces the ridiculous with open arms, proving that laughter is indeed the best medicine. Beyond the laughter, Captain Underpants. The first epic movie carries a potent emotional undercurrent, primarily fueled by the extraordinary friendship between George and Harold. Their bond is the film's unwavering anchor, a testament to the power of shared experiences and mutual support. They are not just friends, they are creative collaborators, each inspiring the other to reach new heights of imagination. Their shared bedroom, transformed into a creative treehouse, symbolizes their sanctuary, a space where the mundane constraints of the outside world fade away, replaced by the boundless possibilities of their minds. This palpable sense of camaraderie and loyalty is what makes their victories so satisfying and their occasional setbacks so poignant. The film reminds us that the strongest bonds are often forged in the crucible of shared dreams and unwavering belief in one another, a message that resonates deeply with audiences of all ages. The film's triumphant celebration of imagination is woven into every frame, from the anarchic doodles adorning the school walls to the elaborate, albeit nonsensical, inventions dreamt up by the protagonists. George and Harold's world is not one of strict adherence to rules, but a vibrant canvas where their wildest ideas can take flight. Their creative treehouse, a sanctuary of artistic expression, becomes a physical manifestation of this boundless creativity, filled with half-finished comic panels, scattered art supplies, and the palpable energy of two boys conjuring fantastical worlds. This space serves as a powerful symbol of childhood freedom, a stark contrast to the sterile, rule-bound environment of Jerome Horwitz Elementary. The visual design of the film directly echoes this ethos, employing a color palette that is both bold and saturated, with characters whose exaggerated features and dynamic movements mirror the expressive, uninhibited style of children's drawings. The humor, a relentless torrent of wordplay, visual gags, and pure unadulterated silliness, is a key component in the film's success. It's a humor that is not afraid to be juvenile, reveling in the inherent absurdity of its premise and characters. The recurring visual jokes, such as the various disguises Captain Underpants adopts, or the ludicrous solutions George and Harold devise, are designed to elicit uninhibited laughter from its young audience. Yet, there's also a subtle layer of meta-humor that appeals to older viewers, particularly in the film's self-aware acknowledgments of its own narrative construction and its playful subversion of established superhero tropes. This multi-layered approach ensures that the film remains engaging and entertaining across a broad age range, proving that good comedy can indeed transcend generational divides. At its emotional core, the film is a testament to the enduring power of friendship. The unwavering bond between George and Harold is not merely a plot device, it is the very foundation upon which their adventures are built. Their loyalty to one another is absolute, their shared dreams and mutual encouragement serving as their greatest strength. This friendship provides a vital emotional anchor amidst the chaos, offering a sense of security and belonging in a world that often feels overwhelming. When faced with challenges, it is their combined courage and unwavering belief in each other that allows them to persevere. This emphasis on the power of camaraderie serves as a potent reminder that true strength often lies in connection, and that shared experiences can overcome even the most daunting obstacles, reinforcing the idea that no one is truly alone when they have a friend by their side. The film's remarkable ability to weave a cohesive narrative from the unbridled chaos of childish imagination is a testament to its clever design and understanding of its audience. The rapid-fire pacing, punctuated by visual non-sequiturs and sudden shifts in narrative direction, mirrors the spontaneous thought processes of young minds. This frenetic energy is not merely for show, it actively draws the viewer into the protagonist's world, where logic often takes a backseat to pure, unadulterated fun. The visual landscape itself is a character, a riot of bold colors and exaggerated designs that pulsate with a life of their own, directly reflecting the hand-drawn, often messy aesthetic of the comics that inspired the film. This visual dynamism ensures that even the slightest pause in dialogue is filled with engaging activity, preventing any lull in the entertainment. Beneath the surface of anarchic humor lies a deeply resonant emotional core, anchored by the unbreakable friendship between George and Harold. Their bond is more than just a shared love for pranks. It's a profound connection built on mutual respect, unwavering loyalty, and a shared belief in the extraordinary power of their own imaginations. Their creative treehouse is not just a physical space. It's a symbol of their sanctuary, a haven where the pressures of the outside world, embodied by the stern Mr. Krupp, fade away, replaced by the limitless possibilities of their shared vision. This unwavering support system is what allows them to face down formidable foes and overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. The film expertly demonstrates that true strength often lies not in individual power, but in the collective spirit of camaraderie and the unwavering belief in one another, a message that is both heartwarming and universally applicable. Krupp, before his transformation, serves as a potent embodiment of adult rigidity and the suppression of joy. His perpetual scowl, his monotone pronouncements, and his obsessive adherence to rules paint a picture of a man whose spirit has been seemingly crushed by the weight of conformity. He views George and Harold's creativity not as a gift, but as a disruptive force to be tamed.